Okay, Sarah, I'm spotlighting you.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. Good evening. Ooh, this is very tingly tonight. So tonight, we're all invited to a transmission that could change everything. The Age of Brilliance, Part 3, Flourishing, is the intention for tonight. The 12-tailed signs that brilliance has taken root with Mynoo Maryel. What if flourishing wasn't something you choose, but something you remember, reclaim, and radiate? This is not just a transmission, it's a soul ignition. A call to activate your deepest truth and step into the field where miracles manifest as your new normal. In this luminous session, you'll receive the 12 unmistakable signs that flourishing is active in your life and leadership. Potent actions to anchor flourishing in your field immediately. The 3 hidden destroyers that shut down flourishing and how to eliminate them. A surge of clarity, cadence, and creative momentum to light up your path forward. The world doesn't need more hustle. It is calling for you in your brilliance, fully switched on. So here we go. Mynoo, are you ready to come on?
You missed the most important part. You're not just attending today, you're activating. So here we go.
Here we go.
Let's begin.
I'm already flourishing.
Okay, great. Welcome, everyone. And my gosh, some of you are there in the middle of the night, Switzerland, Ireland. Thank you for joining us. So let's begin. And Sarah, if as I'm going through it, it's a combination of downloads and transmission combined with some prep work. So if there is something that shows up for you or for anyone that you want to put in the chat, then you can interrupt me and I'll pause and address whatever shows up. So here we go. Let's begin. So these, I did a whole series of the Pearl of Wisdom, which is all about 7 this and 7 that, right? And now we've got into the 12. So everything is coming in clusters of 12s. I guess it's all about that master number 3, which is certainly the number for 25 and 26, 25 to 28, 2025 to 2028. So 12 telltale signs that flourishing is active. So in the Age of Brilliance, what we did was we began our series last time with an understanding of the fullness and holisticness of what brilliance means. Today, we are going into flourishing, another very important facet of this Age of Brilliance. And we are talking about the 12 telltale signs that flourishing is active. So each sign that I'm going to talk about reveals quite a unique energy field of brilliance. And when it is embodied, it anchors flourishing into your life, into your leadership, and the legacy that actually gets created from the choices and actions and decisions that you make through how you choose to express yourself. So the first telltale sign is aliveness in every cell. We've got, as a human, we are made up of 124 trillion cells. And what happens is, and many of you in my previous transmissions have heard me talk about the experience of sunrise in every cell. And one of the facets of sunrise is it literally brings everything to life. And when you start to live your life, aliveness kicks in. So how do you recognize it? You recognize it because you feel awake, you feel vibrant, you feel pulsing with creative possibility. Your body feels like home, not a burden. That's how you know that you're experiencing aliveness in every cell. You can experience aliveness through a burst of action, but aliveness in every cell is a telltale sign. And how do you invoke it? You know, your breath is certainly an important way of doing it. Dipping into your treasure trove of joy, allowing your body to experience and move in the rhythm of joy would certainly enable that. Speaking your truth, you know, like literally activating your inner yes is a way of invoking it. What do you avoid to ensure that this telltale sign, you know, has got the space to show up in your world? You avoid draining routines, living in your autopilot, as some of you already know, this body of work, or suppressing your desires, your truth. So as you know, whenever I receive something like this, I literally go in and say, okay, I mean, it's how fortunate am I that this transmission is coming through? Let me actually experience being able to proactively invoke aliveness in every cell. So Sarah, you already know I have quite an elaborate breathing practice that I do every day. So I go into, okay, which of these breaths actually enables this to happen? And I found the combination of the breath of fire and the very deep nostril rapid breathing certainly does that. The 9-4-6 breath just really cuts the exasperation or extreme and completely brings you into your center, does that. This piece was pretty interesting, moving your body to the rhythm of your joy when you're experiencing joy. So you know how to recognize this when you experience that unequivocal flow of yumminess in your being. Invoking it is a different matter altogether. So this was a good one. And I mean, as a matter of routine, it's like a habit. I have this imaginary tuck box, my joy tuck box. I remember when my son went to boarding school, the most exciting thing of the start of the school year was preparation of his tuck box, which used to be at the end of their beds, and all these goodies that used to be in the tuck box. So I have this wonderful imagination of my joy tuck box. So I go dip into it from time to time. And I love the 24/7, looking at the Rialto Bridge or St. Mark's Square. So I just put it on and I just experience, okay, watching it and allowing my body to move with it. I didn't expect that the body would respond. But what was amazing was to see that our bodies had their own intelligence. And so it was like, okay, this is how it is moving. And I could feel waves of that wonderful, unequivocal flow of yumminess rising within me as I'm moving to the St. Mark's Square webcam. And And then I thought, okay, this is great. I feel it. I now know what that rhythm feels like. And I just put on something else, which was like a photograph of some flowers that I had taken the other day. And I'd created like a carousel and I allowed it to play to see if that would give me the same experience of aliveness in every cell. It was different. It wasn't the same. It was nice. It was pleasurable, but it was not the same. So you will discover what that is for you. So many of you have been coming to my sessions for a few years now. So many of you already have your treasure chest of joy. So experience what that is like. We have some phenomenal collaborators in accentuating and amplifying our joy. Now, the important thing that I'm seeing with this age of brilliance and with each of the pieces that we are doing a deep dive into is every solution is a full spectrum solution. So here, I wanted to know that there was an unequivocal way in which we could recognize that we are anchored in flourishing in the age of brilliance. So for that, the physical signals were really important. So going for the invocation whereby I'm working with my physical body as my barometer was extremely helpful. And then when I tuned in, I looked at, well, how am I feeling mentally? There were no thoughts. I was actually thoughtless as I was allowing my body to sway to St. Mark's Square webcam. When I was seeing the carousel of all these different flower photographs that I've taken, and these were flower arrangements. Dubai is so rich in amazing hotels with amazing flower arrangements. So I just love experimenting with my iPhone and taking these wonderful photographs. It was not the same. It was not the same. It was lovely. It was not the same. So remember, how do you recognize aliveness in every cell? You feel awake. You feel vibrant. You feel pulsing with creative possibility. Your body feels like home. You're reconnected to the spirit of you. And from that space, your social dynamics, your emotions, and the environment that you surround yourself with starts to transform. I was just looking at the plants I have at home. And I mean, the apartment I was in earlier overlooked the creek, and now this one is in the same building, but on the opposite side. And every plant is completely thriving as, hey, what am I engaged in? I'm still recovering from my fractured arm, but I'm implementing many of these things that I'm sharing with you. So I'm experiencing my environment transform around me quite beautifully. So, work with it. Even understanding what to avoid helps in case you're feeling a little out of sorts. Let's look at the second telltale sign. The second telltale sign is where you have inner clarity over outer noise. It's like you may be in the busier space, you may be with people who are very highly opinionated, you may be in the midst of lots and lots of inputs about whatever is going on in the world, and deep within, you experience complete clarity. You can operate from your center no matter what. How do you recognize this? You recognize this with your level of decisiveness. And your decisions sort of come from a deep knowing. There is no have to, there is no need to. There is no must, there is no should, there is no should not. There is no external pressure. It's like you feel guided, not pushed. Now, when you recognize this, act on it. When you're feeling that decisiveness, go take that action. How do you invoke this within yourself? You know, there is a lot of noise that is going on. Now, for me, this was an interesting one. Let me talk about how to invoke it and what to avoid, and then I'll share how I worked with it. So, how do you invoke it? You invoke it by simply pausing, pause, and listen. Listen, asking the question, what feels the most aligned? And then you act from that space of alignment within you. What do you avoid? You avoid overconsumption of information. Absolutely avoid outsourcing your inner authority. So, there's so much going on, so many news, lots of news of various things showing up all over the place. And I was visiting some friends yesterday, and I was at their place, and they have various house guests going on, television in every room. Wherever you went, there was different type of news channels or something or the other on. Um, and some of the Indian news channels have got this way of relaying news, having online debates where everyone's screaming over each other. And I just thought, okay, let me see if this telltale sign of inner clarity over outer noise can actually deliver. And just this question, that's where I came up with the question, what feels the most aligned? And people were getting so animated about certain points that they wanted to have a discussion about it. And there's a lot of debate going on, about how China is retaliating against, in the context of luxury brands, how China is retaliating, talking about how they are producing all of these Louis Vuittons and all of these bags that get sold for $38,000 and or more, and what the Chinese get paid is $1,200. So they are saying, well, exactly the same thing without the logo. Come by, get it from us. And this is like a series of programs that are being relayed, about this. And a lot of discussion about this and then something else and something else, and what feels the most aligned. And what felt the most aligned was this person had a foot massager. What felt the most aligned was for me to go sit down on the sofa and have my feet massaged whilst everybody is getting all het up about this discussion. And really just see it as something that is occurring around me rather than own the distress that was multiplying. But that in itself was like a prick in a balloon that literally took the tension out of the room. And then suddenly the food appeared and, people started, mingling and talking about other things. So it was interesting. The one person in the 32 that were there made a choice coming from this inner clarity, and the outer noise decided to, dissolve and became much more a space of connection and reconnection. And suddenly the source of conversation was no longer these television newses that were going on. And at some point, somebody just went and switched off all of those television pieces that were switched on at the time. The reality is, information is coming at you from all directions. This is the time, more than any other time, to become consciously aware of this cycle that we go through, which is data. When something comes at you in terms of, pieces of I won't call it information because it is data that is coming at you, all forms of stimulus in packets of data that's coming at you. You process it, it becomes information, and then you analyze what that means for you. It starts to become knowledge. When you start to implement and take action, it starts to become wisdom. And you keep taking action, it becomes an inner knowing. So having going through this cycle, coming from outer noise, is what creates that ungroundedness. And decisions are made and amplified coming from that ungroundedness, stimulated, fueled by outer noise. Instead, invoke this. Allow everything to be there. It's all data that's there around you. You choose what you process, what you don't. So that cycle of data to information, to knowledge, to wisdom, to knowing doesn't have to be applied to everything. You decide what that is, and you can. That's the power and beauty of this age of brilliance. It is completely in support of you shining in your brilliance. Sarah, shall I continue?
Yeah, please. What I like a lot is, again, reminding us that actually each of us chooses, that we choose. I forget that all the time. Not all the time, but a lot of the time, as conscious as I am, sometimes you get caught up in all that noise, even if it's just noise that I'm conscious of the noise and I want to avoid the noise, but I know it's there, and I feel like the social media noise, all the news. So thank you. Yeah, please
I
continue.
think the main thing to understand is if this is the time to really grasp this cycle that I've been talking about for several years now, that everything begins in terms of when it is coming at you, it's data. There's no stimulus. It's just data that's coming at you, and you process it to make it information. That's where it starts to become something that's meaningful to you, you know? And then when you start analyzing it, now your thoughts, which have no roots, start to become applied to it. That's where it starts to, convert into knowledge. You then take whatever information is there and you're, having a look at other stuff and pulling it all together, then it becomes knowledge. When you implement that knowledge is where it becomes wisdom. So the noise outside is the noise. Let's have no judgment about it. Okay, it's there. It's data. That you can be in an amazing nightclub with fabulous music going on. For some, it'll be noise. For others, it'll be brilliant rhythm. So noise is neither good nor bad. It's there. It's when it starts to inform you. That's where you've gone deeper into that cycle from data to knowing, but coming from the noise as opposed to your own discernment. That's the important thing to remember.
So, Mynoo, just a quick question is, like you did when you were in the living room and the televisions were on and you went to get the foot massage, where do you go at that moment when you're in the space of this noise? And you're doing,
Yeah, when you ask yourself, what feels the most aligned? And it may simply be, just take a sip of water.
Mm.
Whatever is there. I mean, this is the last thing you would do with 32, highly animated and active people. Very intelligent, having points of view to go and say, okay, oh, wow, there's a foot massager. I'm going to bring it and sit down and put my feet into it. That's the last thing that you would do. Anyone would do. And
although at the same
the
time, you kept yourself in the space
I
of
kept
the
myself in the
noise.
space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. There wasn't any, I was actually, with a smile and all of that was there. There was no patronizing. I was very engaged. The person who was talking to me, I just said, oh, actually, I feel like a foot massage. They just thought, oh, she's just recovering from this fracture. So that's why I had that little bit of a leeway, I guess.
Patrick.
But it could be anything, Sarah. Just
Okay.
ask yourself, in this moment what feels the most aligned. And it may simply be taking a 9-4-6 breath. Nobody needs to know that you're doing a 9-4-6 breath, but you know.
Okay.
That's the key thing.
Okay, thank you. Takes practice. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. The most important thing to remember, the age of brilliance is very personal. It's about you. Okay. So coming home to you and making your choices from there, what are you doing here? You are reclaiming one of the things that you're born with, which is your natural modus operandi of being alive on this planet, which is choice. You're reclaiming your choice. And you're choosing to actually express it and exercise it. That way you're honoring your own worthiness. So you're replugged into your dignity. And you're standing at the source of your life, not at the behest of anything outside of you, regardless of whatever is going on.
Thank you.
So let's go to the third telltale sign. The third telltale sign is, what I'm calling as inspired momentum. And I've been on this slogan for a while, which is next step next. Take the next step next. Inspired momentum, how it shows up is there is a natural cadence. This is how you recognize it. You are in cadence. Things are moving with grace. Resistance is fading or dissolving. And you're not feeling there's the FOMO factor dissolves. You're not feeling that crazy surge to time's running out, I've got to do this and I've got to do all the have tos, need to, must do are gone. And you're taking the next step next. Remember, the next step next is a very important factor of the age of brilliance. It is not about one step at a time anymore. One step at a time is a strategy that results in stop, start, which means every time you have to overcome a state of inertia. But the next step next, the bandwagon is rolling. Each step pulls forth the next, and the next, and the next. Now, the way the content of these sessions is designed is sequential as well. So by the time you get to inspired momentum, you're already operating from inner clarity. You know how to work with outer noise. You're already in the state of vibrant vitality with aliveness in every cell. And now you have the freedom to step into your own cadence and stuff that you stand for starts to move with grace and resistance starts to dissolve. How do you invoke this? Proactively. Don't stop and analyze. Don't stop and analyze. Replace overthinking with overthanking. Come back into your body. Just take the next aligned step now. Let this cadence build the momentum. There's a very interesting business situation that I'm dealing with. I'll talk about that in a moment, but let's look at what to avoid. You avoid the stop-start patterns. So one step at a time, avoid that. I mean, I have had this wonderful fortune of seeing my little grandkids grow up from the time of their birth almost. So I have seen that if Emilio, who is, I was, and Leo actually, I was there when they took their first steps. If they took one step at a time, they would not be walking. They just simply kept taking one step, then the next followed, and the next followed, and they fell and they got up and they started again, and lo and behold, they were running in no time. That's what is inspired momentum, where you are self-motivated and self-inspired. So stop-start patterns stop. Procrastination disguised as planning. Stop. and invoke it by simply asking, what's the most aligned thing for me to do? What is mine to do at this point? And just take that next step. Does not mean you don't have an ambitious vision. You do. But get into the implementation of it by taking that next step next. This is the time more than any. This is the time that I have been training you all on the concept of baby steps, where each step is a milestone step. And the quality of a baby step is it keeps going. It keeps moving forward. And that's why this telltale sign is titled Inspired Momentum. The next step next. Going to the fourth telltale sign. The fourth telltale sign is what I'm calling as sovereign leadership. Sovereign leadership, really, you own your sovereignty. And you also invoke a remembrance that you are a born leader. We all are a born leader. You simply have to look at the, babies around you. They haven't been taught any particular form of leadership. So I look at myself. I've spent decades learning and teaching about different forms of leadership. Well, really, what I'm doing here is getting leaders to unlearn so that they can step into what is their sovereign leadership. So how do you recognize it? You experience coherence. One of the 10 commandments of the New World is an up-leveling from alignment to flow to coherence. So you lead with coherence, not control. Your presence actually has an impact on calming, uplifting, and aligning. It occurs naturally. And what are you aligning people to? You don't get into debates and discussions about convincing anyone about anything. You owning your presence and then allowing yourself to be present with conscious awareness to that calms. It calms you, it calms the environment around you, and it naturally uplifts and aligns. So how do you invoke this type of experience? You do this by bringing your heart brain, your head brain, and your gut brain into harmony. How do you do that? You do that. The 9-4-6 breath is a very easy way of doing it. Breathe into the count of 9, hold to the count of 4, breathe out to the count of 6. And there are many other ways of doing it as well. And I'm sure I'm getting all of these downloads. At some point, I will be able to create practices around it. There's a very specific way in which I do alternate nostril breathing that completely brings the head, heart, and gut into harmony. Being conscious and putting yourself into a whole brain state is an important one. Biodynamic medicine, Mary Malloy is here. Biodynamic medicine completely does this, activating your vagus nerve. And we've already done 2 sessions on it. So you can go to the Human Miracle, the vagus nerve sessions, and you will understand how to do this. Let your truth guide you. Let your truth actually be the one that commands you, if anything does. That is the way to invoke your sovereign leadership. You don't have to discuss, argue, state your opinion. You can observe and allow things to flow. What do you avoid? You avoid needing to be seen or validated. You avoid hierarchical or fear-based structures. It's easy to say, but if you are already a part of a realm where these hierarchical structures are there and they are anchored, remember, there is no need to argue about anything. It is what it is. In amidst that, what can you do to align your head, your heart, and your gut brain and operate from a state of harmony? What is it that you can create for yourself? So that way, things start to not have the controlling effect on you. The thing that is important for all of us to remember is as we see the age of brilliance and the transition from the age, I'm just going to call it the age of intolerance or darkness, to switch from that into the age of brilliance, we'll see a lot of dichotomies, conflicts arising all over the place, small, big, variety of them. And the important thing is, it is occurring. It only becomes your conflict if you choose to react to it. This is where you really grasp the difference between reaction, which is reactivation of an emotional trigger, to response, which is reestablishing a bond through a remembrance of who you truly are. That is a soul being. And remember, whatever may be occurring, whatever may be caused by humans making decisions and choices, there are only 8 billion and 8 billion plus, just under 9 billion of us. But there are trillions and trillions of living beings that cohabitate with us on this planet. With the exception of humans, everything and everyone else operates from their truth. The vast majority of the living beings that make up this beautiful blue-green globe of ours are operating from their truth. So the planet has self-actualized, and it is regeneratively doing so. So even if we want to, we cannot destroy it. So you make your choices and decisions coming from your truth. Take the next step next. Let's look at the next telltale sign. The next telltale sign is my favorite. I can't say which one is favorite, but this one has got certainly a very favorite ring to it, which is the yumminess of flow. You recognize it because you feel deliciously on purpose. Even challenges feel meaningful. I'm going through a particular situation in a business context, and some of you here are aware of it, where one of the business partners has, there was a huge breakdown, meltdown, and then complete ghosting that took place for a period of time, which has caused some serious issues around that particular business. And I decided, age of brilliance, it's going to resolve it. I'm going to use everything that I'm going to be sharing this year on myself and see how this is going to emerge. So being proactive about experiencing this being deliciously on purpose, I took every challenge that I came up against as meaningful in the context of my purpose. And my purpose, as you already know, is expecting and accepting miracles becomes the norm for humans and humanity. Proactively, how do I play my part in doing that? What I'm doing is showing people how to experience aliveness and live the life they love. That's the game I'm on. So how about doing that for myself? So, okay, here's a challenge. I'm going to look at this challenge in all of its nuances holistically and look at how do I address this such that I continue to experience that aliveness for myself, living the life I love. That meant I was not going to delay anything. I was going to keep taking the next step next and bring cadence to the resolution of this situation that was impacting all of us. And then I would go into, okay, what is the most aligned thing to do at this time? And I would like write down whatever showed up. So in this context, what is my next step? This is my next step. And the ghosting that was going on for so many months, like completely just disappeared, like poof. And everybody's back on the table, resolving. I'm not going back to the way things were because I've already seen what occurred. So that is not happening anymore. It has to be concluded fully, tidily, completely. So everyone moves forward, unleashed, with the freedom of shining their own brilliance. What did I invoke? I invoked the way I did that is by following what feels nourishing and expansive. Flow, which is in my world, flow also stands for flourishing leaders of the world. Flow is actually your new compass. And the yumminess of flow is like the um, the grade that tells you, to what extent are you experiencing this yumminess. And that comes from what feels nourishing and expansive. So what is the most nourishing and expansive conversation to be had right now? So there was some serious, quite strong anger exchanges that were going on around me as I was dealing with this particular situation. What feels the most aligned right now? What feels the most nourishing and expansive thing to say? And it was, so what are we going to do now? Hear everything that everyone is saying. So what are we going to do right now? That's all that felt nourishing and expansive. And it took a while because people are like, we are like, everybody's heated up about the situation. And I'm saying, okay, get it. So what's there to do right now? After a while, once everything was said by whatever anyone wanted to say, the most nourishing and expansive thing at that point was, okay, so let's go get ourselves a glass of water or whatever and reconvene in 5 minutes and arrive at what the action plan would be. And then what is your next step? What is your next step? What is your next step? Let's take the next step next and reconvene. I used flow as my compass. And then everyone else also has now got into the rhythm and cadence of flow. What do you avoid? You avoid forcing outcomes. You avoid forcing outcomes or clinging to rigid plans just because they are there. I'm not saying don't do them. Even I am someone who requires plans for myself. But I have my intention as my bullseye. So the plan is a plan, knowing what I know. My actions are next step next. The rigidity is what I've taken off. And I was one for rigid plans, having had all these years, decades of corporate training. So that's the fifth one. I'm going to carry on to the sixth one. We've got 12 to do. So Sarah, I'm going to continue, okay? Okay, the sixth one. The sixth telltale sign is I don't edit what shows up when I'm preparing for these transmission. So it's a strange sentence, which is fierce trust in the unknown. How do you recognize that you have this trust, this fierce level of trust in the unknown? Is you feel held, even when you can't see what's ahead. You feel held. How do you invoke this magical feeling? You anchor yourself in the field of trust every day, daily practice. Given what is occurring right now, what is it that I can trust today? And it may simply be, if I'm breathing, I still have life. That's what I can trust. Or whatever it may be. You decide what that is. But getting yourself into the rhythm of trust really supports you. And, an incantation, which could be a declaration, something like, I am supported beyond imagination. And you can actually evidence that by going back and looking at different points in your life and how supported you were beyond your imagination when things looked like they were all falling apart. There were many, many experiences that each one of us has had from that magical time of 2.5 years during Corona. And of course, there are other times in our life as well. So you can very easily invoke the trust in the unknown. What do you avoid? You avoid overanalysis. Overanalysis takes you off from your own grounding, and therefore you have this insatiable desire to control because it feels out of control. And you know what occurs? A fear-based forecasting. False expectations appear real and they start becoming your declaration, and it becomes your own forecasting that you start engaging in. And trust immediately disappears like poof, it's gone. So any comments or any questions, just put them in the chat. Sarah, do you want to come in at this point?
Why don't you keep going? Because we're on 6. Are you ready for 7?
Yes, I am. Okay, the 7th telltale sign is, uplifted environments. How do you recognize? You recognize it by experiencing that people feel better in your presence. Spaces come alive around you. That's how you know. That's how you know that you're you're living, breathing, experiencing, flourishing. Your brilliance is shining through. How do you invoke it? You invoke it by proactively setting vitality building, energizing, invigorating intentions. And you can curate beauty in your environment. You can curate sacredness in your surroundings. And whatever that means for you, it'll be different for different people. It all begins with you setting those energetic intentions that are brimming with vibrant vitality. So for me, expecting and accepting miracles are the norm for humans and humanity. I want that to be anchored beyond just there in my lifetime. So for that, I'm here to create, my mission is to create a flourishing world. For that to occur, I'm actually here to show people how to experience aliveness and live the life they love. In that context, what is my next step? And I take that next step next. Now, it hasn't, I'm saying it so flawlessly, but I've done some work to uncover this sequence. So what is that for you? So many of you here have done my work on uncovering your source mastery. So, you consciously operating from source is absolutely one way of doing this. What do you avoid? You avoid toxic environments. You'll feel the yuckiness. You avoid them. Neglecting your space and tolerating energy drains of any kind. Avoid them. There are a few things that are zero tolerances, and I'm going to talk about them in a moment. These are avoidance. Sometimes you can't. In which case, do some of the practices so that you can continually operate from your center, operating from a space of trust, knowing that you're fully supported. Eighth telltale sign is, it's an interesting title called relational radiance. Relational radiance, this is where the social dynamics piece becomes evidence. You recognize relational radiance when your relationships are thriving. They are real. They actually infuse you with vibrant vitality. They are aliveness giving. How do you invoke it? You invoke it by listening deeply, speaking with humility, feeling that wonderful, soft fuzziness of kindness within you, celebrating others' brilliance. In your celebration of others' brilliance, you come into harmony with your own. What do you avoid? Drama loops, people pleasing, or withholding the truth, or allowing yourself to harbor unsaid communications. I'm going to keep going, Sarah. There's so many amazing stories that I can share. How I've done this. But even if you just listen to this and go, if you take each one of these telltale signs and find one situation from your life, go back the last 2 years, last 5 years, last 10 years, find one situation and just really decipher it for using each telltale sign, and you will find so much richness in that. The most yummy thing is proactively invoking it. So evidencing it for yourself from your own life experiences, and then putting into practice invocation will really help you. The ninth telltale sign is magnetic synchronicities. Serendipity. This is how you recognize it. Serendipity becomes your strategy. Opportunities appear with grace all around you, including some of the things that you were so sure were going to work out, not working out, and then something magical showing up, which wouldn't have had the space to show up if what you were so attached to had worked out. Even that is serendipity. So you'll recognize it. Magical numbers, master numbers that keep showing up every time you look at the clock is an evidence of magnetic synchronicities are activated. You invoke it by staying present to your presence. When you do that, you are aligned within yourself. Synchronicity is a direct consequence of authenticity. You step into your authenticity. In everything that you do, synchronicity follows. That is guaranteed. What do you avoid? You avoid pushing or striving outside your aligned field. You know you're striving outside your aligned field when you're trying too hard. Life's meant to be easy, not necessarily comfortable, but if you take the next step next, then, and you acknowledge what is occurring, good, bad, ugly, beautiful, you experience grace. Acknowledge that. You start to live and breathe in and breathe out flourishing. So avoid pushing, striving outside your aligned field, where by the time you get to point number 8, you already are in a space of trust. So the 10th one, the 10th telltale sign is a creative overflow. Creative overflow. How do you recognize it? Creativity is pouring out of you. Ideas are pouring in. You can't help but create and share and birth. You're giving life to your creations. It isn't just creativity that you hold on to as your secret. That's how you know that you're in creative overflow. Birthing is essential. How do you invoke it? This is where connecting to your guides, connecting to your intuition, speaking it, writing it, expressing it, letting it move through you in any form of expression is important. Be it storytelling, be it sketching, be it photographing. And we all have, each one of us has a fabulous team. Even if you're a lone worker or solopreneur, you have a bot team. It's up to you to work with it. What do you avoid? You avoid perfection. That is paralysis. Comparison, or bottling up your voice, your expression, your self-expression. When you bottle it up, creativity stops. It goes into this, it's safe black box. It's easy to invoke because we are all in the age of brilliance. Intuition is rampant. Remember all of those planets I talked about? You can also take the assistance of any of those planetary energies to support you, to break out from a pattern of self-indulgence into creative overflow, where you don't have to hold back. You can express and share. 11th telltale sign is purpose-led prosperity. Money and opportunities flow abundantly in service of your mission. My mission of creating a flourishing world. It's super exciting what's occurring and how the flow is happening. How do you invoke it? You align what it is that you offer, what it is that you bring forth with soul-led service, selfless service, shameless ask. Price it with integrity and with love, and share it with authenticity. Avoid the scarcity mindset, guilt around receiving, or overgiving without reciprocity. Energy exchange is extremely vital and important for you to experience flourishing in the age of brilliance. So many examples and stories that I have experienced of really working with this piece. The 12th is daily rituals, routines of release. This is a telltale sign as well. How do you recognize it? You automatically plug into old patterns that you are shedding every day, like a daily practice, and you shed them with grace. You feel lighter day by day. You start to experience this lightness of being. How do you invoke it? You invoke it by using my analogy, or this imaginary analogy of a dissolving bucket. When you're shedding an old pattern, just put it into the dissolving bucket. It just dissolves it. You speak it out into the dissolving bucket, this imaginary one. It allows your emotion to move through breath and sound, connecting your spine with like a golden cord with a core of the earth. They are all ways of invoking this. It is like a ritual of release. What do you avoid? to ensure this doesn't anchor in there. You avoid suppressing, bypassing, recycling wounds as identity or blaming. There are 3 zero tolerances. And these zero tolerances destroy flourishing. In the age of brilliance, if you're not flourishing, it will be extremely difficult. These are non-negotiables. The moment they enter your field, flourishing immediately starts to fail. Self-abandonment. When you ignore your inner voice, your inner knowing, you suppress your voice or betray your truth to fit in, to please, flourishing collapses. Chronic control, over-planning, overthinking, micromanaging, trying to force the flow kills flourishing. It kills flourishing because you kill creativity and coherence. You lose the cadence, momentum dies. Third, normalizing numbness, tolerating mediocrity, disconnecting, or emotional shutdown. Flourishing requires feeling. It requires a connection to your intuition. Aliveness is not optional. It is essential. So no matter where you are right now, flourishing is not a distant dream. It is your design, your divine default. You hold within you the codes of regeneration, the wisdom of lifetimes you hold within you. You have the courage of, fueled by ancient wisdom. You're not just here to survive this era. You're here to sing it alive. You have the power to turn breakdowns not just into breakthroughs, but into brilliance. Transform fear into fierce clarity. Transcend in limitation and create the miraculous. It's up to you. You can do that. No system, no story, no shadow is more powerful than a soul being that is on fire, amplified by operating from this human form whose innate vibration is love. The world does not need just healing. It is waiting for each one of us to step into flourishing and sharing that. So this is the time. You rise, you embody it, you lead with it. And it is a collaborative co-creation. So let us flourish, let us shine, let us reclaim the brilliance that we are. Over to you, Sarah.
Wow. And little did I know that when I set my intention of 2025 to be flourishing, that all of this would be transmitted by you. Just a few quick comments for consideration. One is what's come up for me, what I would love to see you bring forth for all of us is matching the breathing, like perhaps we could have a session on breathing practices that support the age of brilliance.
Yes.
I would love to see that. I have a question about coherence, but I think that might take a lot for tonight. And what I'm curious, I don't know if you could do it in a few words, is there's just so much. This is rich and enriching. And I started thinking about, how do I start my day with this? What would my day look like if I were incorporating all of what you've transmitted tonight into that day? And it just seems beautifully overwhelming. I mean, not overwhelming in a fear-based way, but in like, where do I start when I wake up until I go to bed? And can you share just a few words on how you have approached it?
So, when I come up with, when these sort of things come through, and for me to embody it before I share with anybody else, I just take one thing at a time. And Sarah, I have now the age of brilliance is here. So I have a time segment. I have two 30-minute time segments in my day. where I'm implementing the stuff that I'm sharing with you. I don't do 2 or 3 things at the same time. I just say, okay, one thing. Now there are 12. In 12 days, if you just took one thing a day, you can. Now, once you've done it, and then you will gravitate to whatever is going to be a natural rhythm for you. Okay? So, I mean, rather than, it's important for each one of you to experience each piece. And it is quite yummy to experience it. Today is going to be, the yumminess of flow day. And see
So
what
you just start anywhere, you wake up and say, okay, today I'm going to start with yumminess of flow. Okay.
Yeah, and then see how that pans out.
Hmm.
My intention is to really share this with you, and of course, these will be on our private YouTube channel for now, so everyone will be able to listen to it and again. But you make it your own. The key is implementation. That's the important part. But thank you for asking. I'll look at how best to do the breathing for all of us. Yeah, there are 64 of these. And by the way, coherence is one of those.
Okay. Okay. So stay tuned.
Yeah, we're going to have a whole session of 12, whatever it is, to do with
Okay.
coherence.
Okay.
I think
Okay.
it's 12 ways to recognize coherence. So thank you. Thank you, Sarah, for hosting. Thank you for showing up. Each one of us that is, you are here, you are in complete coherence of your higher self in your physical human body, connected to your soul being in your brilliance. So we are creating a container in which these transmissions are being shared. So thank you, everyone. I declare our session complete. Namaste. Have a peaceful rest of the day.
So much, Mynoo. It was profound.
Thank you, Lee. You're welcome. You're welcome.
Thank you so much. I hung on every word.
Yeah.
Really is brilliance. Really.
Yeah, me too. I mean, there's Mynoo and there is the Maryel that is actually transmitting it. So even I hang on to every word. Thank you.
Thank you.
Really resonated with it.
Welcome. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Good night.